Hey everybody, I'm filming this video just to help you kind of get on the same page as everybody, and because we kind of ran out of a bit of time at the end of class, so I want to make sure everybody has this resource to access this first assignment. So in the Google Classroom under our pre-calculus, obviously, within the classwork tab, a few resources that you're going to be able to access your problems through. This is the link to your 1.1.1 review and preview assignment. That's the link to the Google form. So you should be able to access the assignment through here. It should show up with instructions, not student work. That's my teacher view. So you can open up the Google form through the link here. To see the problems will be always at the end of the lesson itself. So if you open up the PDF, we went through this whole lesson today. The general team roles, that was included in this, but we already talked about that. We answered all the way through 1-4. We kind of skipped this section down here because we were short on time, but if you want to read that, it's kind of interesting. And then there were the math notes. So again, the math notes you need to either print, cut out, and paste or tape into your notebook, or if you don't have a printer, yes, you do have to write this all into your notebook. Shouldn't take too long, and again, most of them won't be this long. This is one of the longer math notes sections. But then there's the review and preview. Again, this section will always be your homework. There are links to homework help that you can click on, and it would take you directly to your homework help. 1-6 is one that I want to talk about in particular. This one's mentioning different function types, and you have this table here that defines the simplest form of each parent or of each function family, which we often refer to as the parent graph or parent function. So if you have all these parent functions here in the table, you're going to have to complete these parent graphic organizers. These links will take you to one if you have a printer and you want to print it out, or you don't even need to do that because I have them here. So if you want, you can print these pages out. If you don't have a printer, again, you're just going to have to copy it down by hand into your notebook. So just to show you what I mean by that. Here we are at our notebook. We started on page 11. You wrote your learning goal. We had the team sort, function story. You wrote your stuff there for that, hopefully. I think this was like a graph. You should have written your story here for 1-3. 1-4, we answered the question to that. Hopefully you wrote your response in there. Next is where you would write your math notes. So this whole section should either have your written math notes or your cutout page of the math notes. After the math notes is where we get to our review and preview. So 1-5 would come here. And you would write your response to whatever the question was for 1-5. To get credit, you have to answer this first of all in your notebook, so you have your work here and you can always refer back to it. But to get credit, you have to go to your Google form where you will submit your answer so that I can see it. If you don't submit it and you only write it in your notebook, there's no way that I'm going to know that you did it. So make sure you do the Google form. Alright, since I ran out of space on that page, next would be 1-6. If you look at it, again, there might be a title for the problem. If it has one, notice both of these don't have titles, it's just 1-5 and 1-6. So here is where you're going to work on that function families, the parent functions graph or organizer. So I actually took a picture of that just to kind of demonstrate something here for you. So here's what the graphic organizer should look like. You're going to have to put all of these functions into one of these types of tables. So just to take a look at our functions again, let's look at the first one. A linear function. The equation is f of x equals x. That's the simplest linear function. So here you would write linear function we know the equation. Simplest linear function is just x. You're going to have to create a table for this. The table should kind of help you fill out the graph. So like all of the x values we have here go from -6 to 6. So maybe somewhere in the middle you're going to want 0, and then we can have, I don't know, -4, -2, I'll go by 2's, 2, 4, and then 6. Well, you need to figure out what the y values would be. You can use a graphing calculator. You can use Desmos to help you out with this. You can write your equation. F of x is equal to x. Actually graphs it for us. You can even create a table for it, and it'll do that table for you. Like -4. Sorry, I needed a negative there. -2, 0, 2, 4, and 6. So now I have a table there. Input -4, I output -4. So remember that f of x, this whole thing right here, is basically our y value. So whatever you input for x, if I input -4, well, I'm just going to replace x with -4, so inputting -4, as we saw in that table over there, obviously outputs -4. Inputting -2, outputs -2, 0, 2, 4, 6. A linear function like this is super easy. And you should be able to graph your line. And this would go on forever in both directions. Can graph the lines based off the points. Input -4, outputs -4. Input -2, outputs -2. Input 0, I output 0. Input 2, output 2. 4 outputs 4. 6 outputs 6. Alright, domain. This is your set of possible x values. Well, we've got to think, is there an x value that doesn't work for this function? Well, no, anything can work. If we kept the graph going, any x values this direction all the way to -infinity would work. If we kept the graph going this direction, anything would work all the way to +infinity. Not that we ever could actually reach it. So this domain would be -infinity to infinity. Range is the same idea. This graph could continue all the way up to +infinity. Can continue all the way down to -infinity. And there will be an output at some point for -infinity. If I were to input +infinity, it would output +infinity way up here somewhere in the top up here. So the range here is also -infinity to infinity. Locator point. This is like a special point. So it could be something like an intercept, it could be a vertex, it could be a maximum or minimum, it could be a asymptote. So depending on what's like a notable feature of the graph, that's what this could be. For a linear function, most notable point is right here, the y-intercept. The y-intercept in this case is at the origin. So that's what I'm going to say our locator point is for this type of function. The y-intercept. So your job for this lesson, for this assignment, is to create a graphic organizer for all of these types of functions, because these functions are going to keep coming up over and over and over again for the rest of the year. So hopefully you have this organizer completed that will help you refer to them as you need to. Once you're done with that, you're finished with this lesson, so you can go all the way back to your table of contents. And whatever page you ended on, that's what goes here. It will be different for everybody. So if you took 3 pages to do this lesson, you would have ended on 14. If you took just 2 pages, it would end on 13, or so on, however it worked out for you. That's all I have for you. Go ahead and have fun working on this assignment. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I will help you out as best as I can. All right, thank you, everybody.